spots are. So, Ron, please reintroduce yourself. Today we're speaking about GPTs.
All right, Ron Young. I'm from Knowledge Associates. I'm based in Cambridge, UK, specializing in knowledge management and in recent years, of course, artificial intelligence and how they can both work together.
Thank you, Ron. David, please introduce yourself. David Gertin.
Okay, David Gertin, based in the UK in a sleepy little town called Fleet, just outside London. I guess I've been working in the KM field now for longer than I care to remember, to be honest. But my focus these days is very much on conversation and something I call conversational leadership. And what with the sort of advent of Gen AI, my particular interest is how Gen AI can help us improve our conversations that we have, but in particular, help us with our critical thinking.
Thank you. We have with us also Larissa Thurlow for Brazil. Larissa, please introduce yourself.
Thank you. I'm based in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, and I'm a researcher and consultant in the field of knowledge management. I've been studying knowledge sharing and lately the impacts of AI. And I'm also a Ron partner here in South America.
Thank you, Larissa. We have Dragan with us. Dragan Petrov from Romania. Please introduce yourself.
Yes. Hello, everybody. My name is Dragan. I run an AI startup, QME AI. We are part of Microsoft Founders Hub. I lead a team of 5 amazing and smart people doing AI think and data science. And yeah, we are playing with robots and GPTs and everything AI related.
Thank you. Abhi Chatterjee, please introduce yourself.
So I'm Obi Chatterjee. I'm joining from Brussels. I'm working in learning technologies in the learning and development team at the European Commission. And essentially, I am learning about artificial intelligence from a whole series of experts that we have all around our organization in order to be able to help colleagues understand about artificial intelligence. So this is probably the most relevant summary I can think of at the moment.
Thank you, Abhi. And I'm Maria Levy. Maybe part of you already know me from Israel. I'm the CEO of RAM Global. We have over 30 employees doing KM all day. And for the past year, we were also not only doing a KM in the traditional ways, but also involving more and more AI and generative AI in our KM work. And today here, we are here to speak about the idea of GPTs. So in order to be all on the same baseline, I will start with a short explanation, definition of where we are positioned, the idea of GPTs, where it sits in, what it is, and then we could continue and start asking our friends many questions as to GPTs. So first of all, we are speaking about generative AI. Generative AI is a subfield of AI. It is generation, because we're speaking about AI generation, but it includes 2 parts. Also the understanding of the text, understanding of content, and also creation of content. Put them together, it can be textual, visual, or any other symbolic. We are speaking about generative AI. When we speak in KM perspective, we mainly focus on textual context. We know that also when you look at images, there is great importance to KM. However, as we know that 99% of our materials are texts, and that's where the content, the knowledge of the organization resides. So we speak about generative AI regarding to text, regarding to textual content. I want to continue. So we explained the idea of generative AI, which I believe that many of you are familiar with. I want to speak a few minutes about a few additional definitions that will take us into the GPTs. So when we continue to the next term, it would be conversational GAI. And that is when we use the generative AI in the mode of conversations. We don't put it behind any software where the software speaks with it and that it speaks with the software, but we put it in a mode where we can interact with it. The human interacts with the machine using bots, and we call it conversational GAI. We don't say that we speak because usually we text and we read text, so we use our eyes and fingers, but we can also, of course, do it using our mouth and ears in the different software tools that already exist. I want to continue. So if we understand what generative AI is and what conversational AI is, it's important that we also know that generative AI is based on something that's the foundation of understanding generative AI. We won't go into algorithms. We won't go into the science stuff and the research stuff. We're saying that we have to know that it's based on large language models. And these are our building stones, our base foundations of the LLM, of the generative AI. However, these models are very big, very expensive in use. So there is also another idea named SLMs, small language models. They're less large. I didn't say that they're really small because they also have 2 to 7 million parameters, depending on the company and the software too. But if you compare them to the it's not 10%. It's 0.1% of the LLM typical size, because if these are millions, these are billions or trillions, depending on how we speak. And the SLMs are, if you take the LLMs and you scope them to a specific discipline and you train the data and you add the parameters as to a specific discipline, we speak already about SLMs. They're not really small, but comparing to LLMs, they are smaller. However, and here is where we want to start our discussion today, because here is where a new magic starts. Really, something new begins here. We are speaking about an idea of GPTs. If we use GPT-4, OpenAI GPT, in a general mode, where we can speak with the LLM, with the conversational GAI, when we speak about GPTs, we are speaking not about a small language model, however, a GPT that is produced for a specific task. It's based on the full knowledge base of the LLM, but with a very, very tiny, slim addition, which we call predefined prompts, but they are more than prompts. So these are our GPTs that have a particular task and that can help us on a particular knowledge task, I will say. And I want to refer to them as knowledge robots. So these are maybe, if we have RPAs, which are process automation robots. So GPTs are our knowledge robots. So I'll stop here, or I'll almost stop here. I want to say one more thing. I read this morning, Morgan Stanley had appointed a new AI high-ranked person. And in the article, sharing then for the news that they appointed a new person that's in charge of AI, both for the strategy and both for doing it in a responsible way, I found a wonderful sentence saying that they refer to AI, and many refer to AI, or some refer to AI, as the new electricity. It's not only a new idea, it's an idea that may revolutionize the way we work, act, and think. So I'll stop the sharing here, and I'm calling my friends on the round table. Does anyone want to resonate with this idea of AI or GAI specifically, or even more specifically, our GPTs being part of this new electricity? Ron?
Did you say as part of this new what? Sorry, Mariah.
The new electricity.
Oh, the
It's
new
like
okay.
electricity revolutionized the way we think,
All
the
right.
way we act.
Right.
So
I'm
we are
with you.
doing the same.
I'm with
Yes,
you.
please.
Okay, well, I think I was last invited to speak at a roundtable in, I think it was June or July last year. It was digital transformation. And at that particular roundtable, I did make the personal point, my personal position, which is that this is a massive knowledge revolution. This is something which I think personally is going to change the way that we think about knowledge and even change the way that we understand and we're capable of representing knowledge. Now, I'll make the distinction straight away that in the knowledge management world, we have a definition of knowledge, and in AI, they have their own definition of what it means for knowledge as well. So we're in some respects, we're comparing apples and oranges, but in other respects, we're not. The key point is it's going to make a fundamental impact, especially on knowledge work. I think it's going to be a tremendous impact. My experience so far has been extraordinary. It's increased my productivity no end. So I don't know if I've just sufficiently answered your first point, which to me, it's the new electricity, yes. It's a revolution, and it's something that we need to take very seriously for the good of humanity, as I'm an optimist and believe that we have to do. But there will be a turbulent period, in my opinion.
Wonderful. Dave, do you want to add on that? Or anyone else on our roundtable?
I will just add one idea that I feel really excited. It's almost like a dot-com bubble that it was some time ago. And I was too young to experience that, but I'm glad that I'm experiencing this phase, and I'm very early. So all of you guys who are joining this call, I think you are very early, and I congratulate you all for this.
Okay, so I think that we're
I'll
all saying
just
that
add a
there's
few
some.
words.
Yes,
I'll
yes,
just add a
please.
few words, Maria. What do I want to say? I think in the KM world, everything I've seen people talking and writing about the impact of Gen AI on KM, they've tended to focus on it as being a productivity tool, but I think more than anything else as a glorified search engine, if you like. And my feeling is that if it is the new electricity, I'm not too sure, to be honest, about that metaphor. I'm going to feed it into ChatGPT at the end of this session and see what it makes of the metaphor, because it may well see things that I'm not seeing at the moment. But for me, the revolution is going to come in the way that we collectively think about the world. It's going to impact our collective intelligence. We're not terribly good right now at coming together collectively to think about issues and problems. And if we can get better at that and then incorporate the chatbots in the thinking conversations, if you like, that we have, then personally, I think that's where the real impact is going to take place.
Thank you. So I want to show everyone what we're speaking about. And again, I'm sharing my screen. If you people enter, if you have a license for GPT and you enter the ChatGPT, you will see that on the left bar, besides having the ChatGPT title, you have another title, an additional title that is, and I'll make my, I can't make it bigger, Explore GPTs. And when someone explores the GPTs, he or she finds there a store of endless GPTs on productivity, on images, on writing, on different types of needs and tasks. And there they can find these task-suited GPTs that they can use in order to work better doing that task. Larissa, can you please, I'll let you share your screen, please. Do you want to please demonstrate us a usage of such a GPT before we continue and speak about it and understand it better?
Yes, I will share here. I will share a conversation I already had. Maybe that'll be faster. Let's see. You can all see my conversation, this one.
So you are now entering and speaking, go back up, please, with a GPT. That task is it. Every GPT has a specific task or specific sub-discipline that it's experts on, and you're speaking about a GPT that its task is to help you with project ideas.
That's it, because I think the difference between going to a regular chat with ChatGPT and choosing a GPT, in my experience with a lot of GPTs, I think they are more focused because there's someone who already trained it for a specific function, as Maria said. So we can get into a conversation that it could be focused on some documents or methodology or something that the person who created the GPT inputted, and also on the internet. So this one, the class projects assistant, was done by a researcher in AI and education, Ethan Mollick from University of Pennsylvania. So he studies this for a long time. So he does a lot of things with this. So it's training with a lot of his knowledge. So that's one thing that's very interesting about GPTs, because we got someone who prepared it with a lot of knowledge about it. So I asked it, I would like ideas for projects for my class on GPTs and knowledge management. And then to give an answer, the GPT asked some more information, because one of the things about getting good results is about context. So the more information you give, the better the results will be. So what learning level the students will be, more details about how they know about GPTs and knowledge management. And I answer beginners, professional education, and they have learned to do better prompts and to think how Gen AI can augment their intelligence. And then it asks for more information. The duration of the project, it to be done individually or in teams, materials they will have access, and if it could include individual reflection. And I've answered, and then it gave me 10 ideas for working with my students, some project ideas. I just passed some of them, but GPT-based FAQ system creation. And then it describes and then gives why, the reason on why that project would be interesting for. And it's very interesting because, as David said, it's like a collective intelligence. It's not only about productivity, because it is get me to prepare a class faster, but also we can think together here with the ideas the GPT gave. So automated interviewer as a second project, knowledge-based article generation, multilingual customer support bot, and so on. I don't know if we'll pass all of this, but it's a very interesting way to get ideas to apply in a class, for instance. That's the focus of this GPT.
I think that you raised an important point, Larissa, that when we work with GPTs, we think together with someone that is, I call him or her, I call it both the expert behind our shoulders that are peeking and directing us, and both at the same time, it's also the person, the low-level employee that's doing everything for us, bringing the data, connecting things, evaluating, calculating, integrating everything, synthesizing it, and bringing it back to us again. So it's sitting, it's like a wet dream. It's a wonderful dream because it's, you know, it's giving me both the one that can help me on the strategic level, and both in the same task, the one that can help me on the operational level. Do I understand correctly?
Yeah, and in this case, I stopped the conversation here because it's just a demonstration, but I could go further. So dive into project idea number 10, and then it goes further to help me here. So it's very also strategic and operational, like an expert, but also someone with a broad picture. So it's a great co-worker.
Co-worker, yes, co-expert and co-worker. Thank you, Larissa. I think that one of the reasons that we call it magic is not only because what it does, but how it operates and how it's easy to build new GPTs. David, do you want to share some of your experience in building a GPT, and then Dragan will show us technically behind the scenes how it's done?
All I've done, Maria, is play with this just tentatively. I haven't gone into great depth, but for the last 7 years, I've been writing an online book. I call it a blook because it's a cross between a blog and a book. So it's kind of a compendium of maybe all my knowledge, for what it's worth. And there must be well over 1,000 posts in that. So what I've done, I've created a customized GPT, with OpenAI. I just think I've called it a conversational leadership assistant, and I fed it pretty much all of my book. And it's so now when I ask it questions, I can play with it. I can go to this sort of all-purpose ChatGPT and ask questions, and it'll give me one set of answers. I can go to mine, and it'll give me a set of answers that are in the context of what I'm writing about, which is conversational leadership. So somebody who's interested in the same things that I'm interested in may well find that my customized GPT is of more value. So, but again, as I haven't got into it that deeply as yet, but the one warning I would give is that when I ask it questions and it doesn't know the answers, it's not that it doesn't know the answers, and it hasn't got material from my book, from my material, it makes it up. Now, I'm not saying it's hallucinating, because it will give answers that there's a good thing, there's a reasonable answers, but they're not the same answers that I would have given. And so somebody using it might think that this sort of was in synchronization with my thoughts, when it's not. Now, on occasions, it does give it away, because I ask it something, it's not in my material, and rather than just giving me a reply, it actually tells me it's searching the web. Now, when it tells me that, I know that what's the answer it's going to come up with is not necessarily, well, is certainly not part of my material. So that's the one apprehension I have with it at the moment. But I say it's very early days. But the great thing about those OpenAI customized GPTs is they are phenomenally easy to build. There's no programming involved. You've just got to answer a number of questions, feed it a whole lot of material, and play with it, and I guess fine tune it to give the sorts of responses that you would like it to. So that's my experience so far.
Thank you so much. So we had some experience from Larissa, who is a fan of GPTs and uses them on a daily basis, every day, several new ones. We had some experience shared by David, who said that it's no programming, it's easy to build. But before I go to Dragan, one more thing. We won't be speaking today too much at how to be cautious, not because we don't have to be cautious. We do have to be cautious. with like with every AI tool and like with other tools, and also when we go to a doctor and maybe he doesn't have all answers. However, next roundtable is designated to one topic, business AI ethics, right, Annie? So we remember that it's important. We remember that we have to be cautious. We can also play around with it so it will be okay, better in this specific topic. But as we have a special session for that, we will put it aside today, remembering not that we don't have to be cautious, but we will address this issue 2 months from now. And Dragan, now I'm asking you if you can please share your screen and show us, explain, demonstrate rather easily how these KMers that are sitting here, we have 70 people here together. Thank you very much for attending. How easy is it to design a new GPT?
Yeah, sure. So I will just continue what David just said, that it's really easy, and OpenAI makes it very easy for all of us to create our GPTs. So I'm just I will just point out that this option of building our custom GPTs is from the Pro account. So you do need a ChatGPT Pro account for this. Okay, so it's
in other words, we're saying account that you paid for and not that you got by the way.
Yes, exactly. So
and
you
one
see
more thing before, how do I enter this this screen? I go, when I open the GPT, I'm not on this screen. I'm on a different screen. So please go one screen back so we'll know how to enter this screen, please.
Yeah. Do you see on the left menu, it says explore GPTs. So that's the first step. And the second step is the button from upper right. It says green button, it says create. Okay. So we can go through these steps. So as you can see, it has two buttons here. It says create or configure. So you can if you are really a beginner, let's say, OpenAI GPT Builder makes it very easy for you to build your first GPT. So you just act as you would do with ChatGPT. So you just go here and you say, I want to build KM GPT, for example. So basically, what this tool does, it's almost the tool itself helps you to build the tool. So it's kind of strange, but this is exactly what's happening here. So basically, through prompting, you will have a conversation with OpenAI, and one step at a time, the prompting will help you to build your GPT. So maybe we can go one step further, and I will show an already built GPT. So this is from my account. I already built this one, and you can see that you can edit GPT. So this is the name of the GPT. This is a short description that everybody can see, because you can update it and you can put it on the marketplace. And this is the part where the system prompt lies. So basically, this is a custom prompt. As Moria said, it's a very specific GPT that does one very specific task. So we have like two options. We have, if we are good with prompting, we can just paste our system prompt here. And if we are not, we just create it from here. So basically, the system prompt, I will just go just real quick, just to show you exactly how I'm thinking about building a GPT. So it's first step, it says you are Wisdom GPT. So basically we are giving him a name, or it a name. and we are giving the role. So the Wisdom GPT has a role of solving business dilemmas and making informed decisions. So, okay, this is the first step. Then the next step would be, we are doing this very methodically, and we are, it's almost programming the GPT very clearly with steps. So this, I would say this method is more about prompt engineering. So as I said, this is step number 1, step number 2. And yeah, I also said the GPT has to follow the following rules. So these are all rules that, in fact, what we are doing with the rules is that we are concentrating all the LLM knowledge into something very specific. So if we do that, we get a much more pleasurable experience. And I will just maybe point some prompting stuff that I find it really interesting. For example, I said, the last thing I said, the system prompt contains this one: if you impress me with your outputs, I will tip you $500. So maybe this sounds silly, but it's not, because the LLM, in fact, because it's trained on the human data, and we know that humans sometimes are motivated by tips. So yeah, this is one way of ensuring that the LLM gives more thoughtful answers. And also this one, this is really nice. I said, I am confident you will do a great job. So you could say this is almost like a positive reinforcement for the LLM. Yeah, so basically that's it. And
Thank
we
you so
can,
much. Yes.
yeah.
Continue. Please continue. Yes.
Yeah, I just wanted one thing to add. We can share the GPT with others. So we have 3 options. We can make it private, only me. Anyone with the link. For example, if we are in an organization that we want to make it private, but within the organization, and we can publish it to GPT Store so everybody can see it. For example, if somebody goes on the marketplace and searches for, I don't know, something wisdom related or about solving a problem, there is a big chance that that user will find our GPT. So that's it.
May I add something that maybe answer one of the questions of the chat? You can input some documents and you can choose the GPT to look only into those documents and not look at the web. So maybe, David, to not get answer for the internet, maybe we could focus only on the documents you've inputted. It's an option. And
I just spotted that at the bottom of the screen.
Yeah.
You had those three options: interpret code, access the web, and the third one was use DALL-E. So
DALL-E, yeah.
So you're right. There's an ability to uncheck that box to not access the web, which is
yeah.
Yeah.
It's interesting too. Depends on what you focus on, but that's something I would like to add only. Yeah.
OP, please add as well. We didn't hear you yet, and so we would be really glad to hear you. You're muted, maybe we can't hear you
Yes,
yet.
I am. Yes, thank you. Probably I can, if I take a couple of steps back, I've always been fascinated by the latest advances in technology, and it's been exciting to see how far the reliability of, for example, self-driving capabilities of our electric car have advanced over the past 8 years. But it's also made me aware of the kind of potential risks of AI. And I see in the chat that some people are asking about that. And although you said we'll talk about that next time, maybe it's worth touching on these a little bit here. One of the angles is about possibly the risk of bias is in the way that the AI has been trained. And so the way that David was doing it is to try and focus everything on what he has already produced. So that, I mean, there is a bias. It's what he his input has been. But the moment it starts going out onto the web, then that effectively disrupts his particular view. And that if you're relying on this as an expert opinion from David, it's not going to be a kind of pure view. There's one thing which I noticed earlier this week. There's been a report that even reputable academic journals have been publishing AI-generated research papers. So somebody has gone through looking for phrases like as of my last knowledge update, and also I don't have access to real-time data, which are typical chat GPT phrases, and found them in quite a few published papers. So apparently these went through the peer review process and so on without anybody spotting. And last week there was a Bellingcat researcher, Kalina Koltai, who tweeted a published paper which included the phrase, "Certainly here is a possible introduction for your topic." And that was at the top of the paper's introduction. So somebody had just directly entered that, and in really apparently quite a reputable journal. So there's a question of trust, which I see could be an issue here, and especially when we're talking about knowledge management, then perhaps today, but in the same way as our car has become better and better at doing self-driving, probably the reliability and trustworthiness of these features are also going to improve. But today we're at a relatively, and I think others have said it before me, we're at a fairly early stage, perhaps, in this.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I think that what we're trying to explore today is not how GPTs specifically work on March 2024, but the potential of this new technology. Because if this new technology is now outside on the web, it can be by one company, it can be tomorrow by 5 companies, and it can be the next day in a private cloud of an organization. So we really see here a breakthrough in the abilities that we can have working with a new technology. And yes, we have to yet wire some things or fine-tune or answer some dilemmas. But as we said, there's a very special ability here. I want to further explain what Dragan started, because when we're speaking about GPTs, Dragan used the term prompt engineering, and it's not only the prompts. When we're speaking about GPTs, we're adding 3 components. I'll show it by entering the Explore GPTs. Just a minute. I'll enter it. I'll share my screen so you can see it. When I go into the GPTs again, and I'll go into something that's similar to what Dragan has showed you, because together, Dragan and myself and me, we are together with Larissa, Christine, and some other people on a special coalition where we're trying to see how future knowledge work will be. And one of the questions that we asked ourselves was how would a future decision-making look like? Oh, this is the Hebrew one. Let's go to the English one. So we asked ourselves how future decision-making would work like. And Dragan has built on the ideas of people, GPT, that takes this task and helps the people through the task of taking a decision. Now, I want to show you another one. First of all, not in order to say this is better, this is worse, but to show you that for the same tasks, different people can build different processes. One will have such advantages and the other will have other advantages. The same thing like when you go to two experts and everyone comes with his or her perspective. So first of all, let's go to the technicalities. When I go to GPT, it includes 3 components: instructions, how to run the conversation, knowledge as to the conversation. That's what David shared with us, that he filled in all his blogs. And the third part would be actions, the ability to connect it with some software tools. Now, I'll leave the software tools outside for the time being, because we are not IT people, even if they're easy to plug and play things. First of all, let's think about the knowledge. We're speaking here about knowledge robots, and as we said, you can give it instructions and you can give it data. I want to show you this. So first of all, I'll show you one of the times we used it, and I love this example. So maybe some of you have already seen it, so I'll go through it again. This is the decision maker, and we're asking it questions. Every time it comes up with with another question. Please assist me. So he says, okay, please tell me, help me understand this scenario. Give me some more details on your company. Okay, before I start helping you how to develop your company, do you want a quick and dirty analysis? And I say, yes, I want. So it provides me a deep and a quick and dirty analysis and helps me with the next step. How can I define success of my need? And then I go on and I say, okay, but help me continuing. So it starts in saying, okay, next steps are what will be your initial considerations. And then how could on the 2 specific options I'm checking with my company, what are the pros and cons? And it says, you know what? Do you want to hear about additional options? Not only stick with your 2? And I say, yes. So it offers me 4 additional ones. And I say, you know what? From these 4, please disregard options 2 and 4. And I like the hybrid approach. And it understands what 2 and 4 are and understands what the hybrid approach is, even though it was a long sentence, and continues on and helps me go through the process and help me see the criteria list and help me evaluate and help me even give this. What you see here is GPT doing, and even saying, no, I'm coming up and saying, okay, give me please suggestions for weights. He asks me, what are your weights for these considerations, for these criterions? I say, I don't know, please help me. And it gives me an idea, and he said, oh, but I am conservative. I'm not telling him this weight is not okay. I'm telling him I'm conservative. My resources are limited. So it understands what weights should be changed, and it changes the weights accordingly because these are my limitations. And it recalculates the weights, and they say, okay, use these weights and produce an explained recommendation. And it continues on. Look what it does. It starts and takes the 2 first options I had together with a hybrid approach, and each one gets its calculations. And then you say, okay, based on these, you have a tie. And now I produce and ask for ending, and I get a management summary explaining everything. Now I want to show you how much information I put into it. Look how easy it is. Look at the data. The data is my understanding of how to run a decision. First of all, asking what is the decision, then asking what is the scenario, then suggesting quick and dirty, and then defining success, and then speaking about initial considerations, and option analysis. And for each one, I'm giving it my methodology, some best practices, and connecting best practices and methodologies and approaches, my guidelines. It understands how to continue. I even suggested at the end that when someone accepts the recommendation, this you didn't see there because it's already advanced, I'm asking it to come up and ask the human being if it wants further steps to start implementation, because that's the next thing we will do. And I'm suggesting one more thing that it will now suggest every time again and again. As recommending mitigation steps, because we understand, because the machine understands that any decision I take has advantages, but has also disadvantages. So not only does it suggest the first steps how to carry on, but it also says, let me help you with some suggestions how to mitigate your risks. So what did I do here? I gave a process methodology together with my best practices and approaches. Some of them are in instructions. Some of them are in the content itself, in the data of the document you saw here. I'll show you what you saw is here, the decision making. And for example, I tell him supply references. So now it's supply references. I tell him walk one step at a time, because people find it hard to be overwhelmed with answers. So yes, when people use it, they have to learn doing it better. It's not only, also when you learn to drive a car, it's not only knowing how to turn the wheel. It's training, it's refining, it's being gentle, and then it works. But that's it. It's not nuclear engineering. It's something very simple. Does anyone want, Annie, please?
Let me turn on. You know what? I first want to say that I really do like these tools and I think they're great, but I always tend to go back to also something in the past. And one of the things that I always look at, and I'm happy of this because in the next discussion, we'll be able to bring up some of this, but it's always interesting to me that we write that people are fearful that technology will replace them or take their jobs. But yet then on the other hand, the dichotomy is that they want the system to do the work for them. So a lot of people don't engage their thinking. And this has happened before with expert systems, which was a knowledge management tool. Expert systems, some of them were discontinued because of human behavior. Humans would develop them. They would say, tell me what I need, but they would not take the time to actually look at them or know that they were secure, and also to make the decision of what do I really do with the sound basis. They would actually listen to the tool, and in some cases that governed human life. So we still have this dichotomy, and even in the case of like physicians, which is not an exact science, but a science that requires part of that. They made the decision to follow a computer, and people died from it. So in the same case, I look at it and I love what Larissa did with the teaching. Actually, I'll probably use some of that. I think it's really great and it's an exact science, but we cannot move forward in this and discount the human behavior that comes with it, because people start to think a little differently. And especially, I hate to say it, when they can get out of something, and we need to change that dynamic so that they understand again the value that it brings and how it impacts our course and direction in the future, because it will cost us quite a bit.
Of course. I think that's why we next session, we will speak about how to do it carefully, cautiously, in the right way. And today we are trying to demonstrate the advantages. I want to close my screen, but before
let me finish. One thing I just wanted to say is I wanted to say that before I had to leave, because remember I told you I had to run quickly today. But absolutely, that's why I'm putting a plug in for the next roundtable.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks, everybody. I hope I'll see you in about 3 weeks, 3 months, right? Mhm.
2 months. Thank you.
2 months.
Okay. Now I'm going back because I want to close my screen, but before I close my screen, I want to show you that the first example I showed demonstrated a process and knowledge best practices as to a very general idea of knowledge work of decision making. But now I'm showing you something that is based on knowledge of social affair workers and their expertise on divorces and custody of the children. So you see that the type of knowledge that will be included here as to symptoms of high risk, as to dangers, as to a risk assessment could be much deeper. And I really showed here a very short example, but the body of knowledge here could be also 10 pages of best practices that we have worked on with the Social Affairs Ministry in order to adjust their best practices. And just one last thing, when we use such a GPT, we give it instructions saying, don't take ethical decisions, don't answer things that have to do with taking the decision instead of the person, of the social affair worker. Only help him, only help her. If they ask for an answer, refuse. So we're even telling in the instructions of the GPT, we're telling the GPT how to act in order to better handle some of these dangers. I'm now opening the discussion to our roundtable and also to the people that are on the chat, of course, as to the benefits and the usages and the influence of these ideas on KM. Who wants to start?
Can I start by perhaps the reason that I'm optimistic about all of this is, first of all, if you look at the global trend, with Web 1, it was known as the information web, provided information to people. And Web 2 came along and social media and gave the opportunity for both people and information to interact. Web 3 was initially about what we called the semantic web, the meaningful web, intelligent agents. Actually, the term Web 3 is used more today for blockchain, but I rather like the meaningful web, a trend for humanity, because I think the big transformation here is it will transform humanity themselves, because we will become more empowered through these tools, and we will discover for ourselves what we don't realize about ourselves to take humanity to the next stage. And when I started with expert systems, Annie mentioned expert systems. I was a programmer and I was fascinated by AI in the late 1980s. And I worked on expert systems, as she meant. And the big thing there was human beings were putting knowledge into a system. And there were limitations on everything from computer power to, and every time you changed it, if you tried to become an expert system for a doctor, as soon as you'd written the thing, knowledge had changed and you had to update it. It didn't make sense cost-wise. What we have here and what you've been showing with the GPT is an agent that's got three components that you mentioned. It's got instructions. I think you called them predefined prompts. We used to code in the old days in programming. Now in natural language, we can put in predefined prompts. The second of the three key parts is knowledge. You can add your own knowledge, and you can have the option to either bring in the world's knowledge or just your own knowledge. So I took a book I've just recently completed. I wanted to test it on the GPT, because I'm writing about the knowledge economy and how I feel we need a new knowledge economic theory. So I put that in so I could start to question the GPT. And to my surprise, it not only gave my book precisely what I said, but it went out onto the web and it came back with insights and ideas and other people's views on the need for a new knowledge economic theory, which I would never have had other than that world's knowledge that's available through large language models. And the third point, the point actions, that is incredibly powerful because even today, and I've tried it, I can not only put in the predefined prompts in natural language, I can not only add my knowledge together with the world's knowledge, but I can get it to perform tasks, go out onto the World Wide Web, find things, give me things, do things. So in the instruction section, you can set up, in effect, not just prompts, but they can be goals. You can put goals in there. You can put natural language, your own knowledge, and it will go out to try to help you achieve those goals. And I think that's a really powerful part. The part I'm frightened of, frankly, and I'd be very happy to join in that discussion, and that's why I've been following things like EU AI regulation, is not intelligent agents like GPTs, but when these intelligent agents themselves talk to intelligent agents, as they can do, and you get autonomous intelligent agents. And that's another discussion. We might have to talk about that later or another session. But in this session, they're incredibly transformative, incredibly powerful. And I think that we are starting to realize, when I last talked to you, Mariah, I said, I don't know much about these GPTs. I played with 1 or 2. I've now got 9. And they are not only books I've put in and tested, but I need a good web designer, and I've got a GPT around web designer. I need a cybersecurity consultant. All these things, these roles, GPTs can assist and perform as well. So I think the big difference here is, in the old days, it was limited by the way we put knowledge into a system. Now we have self-learning systems and a world's knowledge that we can choose to use as well. And that's incredibly powerful.
Thank you. Additional people round table, please. Benefits for KM usages.
I can say I'm very optimistic too. I know we have a lot of issues like bias and privacy and all that issues, but I think it can be very helpful for knowledge workers, as we were saying about productivity and collective thinking. And it's amazing how once you get used to get an information or helping the content creation, summarization, with some tasks you are used to do in your work day. So I think once you get the mindset of how it can help you, and you got all the GPTs you trust, I was saying how we can find, because there's a lot of people trying to do, and there's a lot of options in the GPT stores. And the way I do is I see who created to see if it's an expert, and I see some of them, they got ratings, depend on the quantity of ratings and how many chats. And then you just have to try. One thing I've been learning is trying to see how the results will be for me, and just try using and creating GPTs. So I think it's an important thing to try, because it's something, it's already there, and you cannot be away from it. I think it's important to use it and try.
I think that you wonderfully are connecting back to what Ron was speaking about. If the first web was information, and you can look at GPTs as a collection of agents, the second one was about adding people to it. And what did we say? That don't follow the information, follow the people, and then what is the information they are following. So you're saying the same thing on GPT. I'm not just looking for GPT, I'm looking who created it so I know how good it is. And from here, we can continue to meaningful GPTs that really do not only the things right, but do the right things. Ron, you wanted to add, please?
I just wanted to support Louisa in the key thing is to embrace this and try it. And I'll tell you why, because there is a paradigm change here, but it doesn't occur intellectually. You have to do it. And if you use it and practice with it daily, more and more you'll go, aha, now I see what this is really about. So my message is embrace it, try it with caution, but try it and see what it does.
On this topic of trying, Maria, can I just say a few words about
more than a few words, please.
Not so much the customized GPTs, but GPTs in general. I could talk quite a while on this, so I'll keep it short. And my particular interest is in the role of conversation in thinking and in particular critical thinking and making decisions. And one of the things I've been playing with, I get together ever so often with 3 or 4 other people who are interested in conversation, and we call it the Odyssey Lab. And we have conversations about conversations, a little bit incestuous in some sense. So we're trying to figure out what makes a good conversation. And of course, we explore lots of different areas, we come up with lots of different ideas. But what I'm doing, we do this in Zoom, so I switch on the transcript capability in Zoom. In fact, I've got it switched on now to capture this transcript, but I capture the transcript of the conversation. I can then feed that transcript in to ChatGPT or to Claude or to Gemini, and I can ask it questions. Now, I can ask the obvious question, please summarize this. But I can also say, could you extract maybe the 5 key points, the 5 key things that were discussed in this conversation? Or I can say, what biases do you think there were in this conversation? What do you think was good about this conversation? What do you think was bad? What suggestions might you make to improve it? I can interrogate the conversation after the conversation in a multitude of different ways. And I say I can talk more about this, but I'll stop there. But the one thing that's in my mind is it's only a matter of time now before we can do that in real time. Imagine a Zoom conversation. Well, imagine a Zoom conversation. Okay, this isn't quite a conversation we're having here, but imagine a Zoom conversation with 6 people. But imagine one of those images on the screen being a Gen AI with an avatar that looks and feels just like you and I, taking part in the conversation. And like with the prompts that we give it, we can tell it what to do. We can say, look, just listen into this conversation that we're having. And if you think there's some biases in what we've got to say or some factual errors, please come in and point that out. Or we can say, hey, as far as we're concerned, you are an equal partner in this conversation. Just join in like anybody else. Now that ability is kind of almost here today. It's only going to be, I'm looking forward to seeing that ability in Zoom, and I suspect that can't be more than a year or 2 away. So it's this sort of ability to interact with it that turns me on.
Wonderful. I want to relate to 2 points just to clarify things for people here. When we're speaking about generative conversation AI, and that would be the Zoom, the one that is just sitting with you on the Zoom next year or the year after. But also we are speaking today specifically, our focus today on the GPTs, the specific GPTs, like, and now you gave me a new idea, a bias detector GPT, because there are 17 core biases and 50 if we expand them or write them or look at the nuances. And if one can detect them, and help us to handle them, so we are in a better place. So that's what we mean when we say GPTs. Take a task
That's a
that could be
brilliant
a
idea.
bias
Yeah,
detector
brilliant.
and start working.
Yeah.
I want to ask
Brilliant idea.
Dragan. Yes, please. Want to add, David?
No, I was just saying that's a brilliant idea. And actually, if you go to Wikipedia, you will find it documents, in some detail, something like 200 human biases. Just feed that into the customized GPT, and it's got everything that it needs to,
Yeah.
quite accurately pinpoint your biases. Love it.
Yeah, that was your idea I took from you. So that's what we call
I
brainstorming.
would patent it quickly if I were you.
I would. Dragan, you say that you work on a daily basis on developing GPTs for all kinds of needs. Can
Yeah.
you share with us some examples of specific usages of these GPTs for the knowledge work?
For the knowledge work,
For everything, for working.
yeah, maybe I will give you an example because right now we've been focused on like many business use cases, but I see GPTs like more like a 24/7 helper. So it's also on a personal level. I can see that helping you on a personal level. I will just give you a quick story. I have a friend who is going through a divorce right now, and I am speaking with him constantly in order to provide help for him. So he's basically, he needs to make a decision. So he has a couple of options. So what I did for him, I just built him a GPT. So instead of going back and forth in his mind and without getting any feedback, what I did for him is I helped him to clear his mind and speak with the GPT. So I think it has a lot of value because sometimes people make decisions by themselves and not really necessarily in conversation with a psychologist or somebody else. But if you sit just you and the GPT and you just bounce ideas, I've seen from real life from my friend that he got real value from that. So that's my idea. I don't see the GPTs just as a business use case because if you use it on a personal level and you get productive, that means your business gets the benefit also. So yeah, for me it's great.
I want to resonate with you. We tried our decision-making assistant, agent, robot, whatever we call it. We piloted it, speaking with several people when they had to take difficult, challenging decisions. Because when you take an easy decision, what to eat for dinner, you don't need a GPT or you don't need a discussion with no one, not even with yourself. So we went to several people, and in some cases it added options, but in all cases it helped them think. It helped them to organize their minds. They helped them to see things that they didn't think about before. So it's more than, when we said that it's also both a coach and a co-worker or a worker, it has so many dimensions in it. But Dragan, I'm going back to you. Can you share several additional use cases? 1, 2, 3 different use cases?
Yeah, sure. For example, a lot of Zoom calls are being made and we get a transcription. I will just paste later on a tool that I've been using recently. It's called TLDV. So basically what that tool does, it provides after the call has been ended. So it's either on Google Meet or Zoom or Teams. So it provides a full transcript with a speaker recognition. So we get a lot of, I think, benefits from that because we can take that prompt and we create, for example, marketing materials from that. We just write a prompt that says, okay, take the insights from this conversation that we had on the call and just create something useful so we can share later on. We can have so many use cases from that. So basically we are just repurposing content, and we are working smart. We are using something that has already been said. And as we all know, when people talk to each other, there is a flow of ideas that is much better than people standing all by himself and wanting to write an article. So we take all the text that has been said during the call, and we repurpose it in so many different ways.
And each way is a use case. Wonderful. Abhi, do you want to add some use cases or some benefits of using the idea of GPTs?
Well, one area that I could see is where something that which I think is what brought David and me together in the first place, was in amongst the different experiments on conversations that we have been doing together. One of the big challenges where you have a participatory workshop is to digest or harvest whatever has come out of those conversations in real time within the space of the workshop before everybody goes away, because that allows everybody to see the outcomes and to agree that those were the actual outcomes that they were all discussing, and then move forwards. Otherwise, what tends to happen conventionally is that you have the workshop and then 2 weeks later somebody finishes writing it up, but then by that time has passed and nobody's interested in the outcome anyway, or whatever. So in that respect, it could be used as a way to accelerate that harvesting process in order to move on to the next stage, which is to summarize the collective intelligence that you do get from any type of participatory workshop, however large scale it is. So this is the sort of area where I think on the collective intelligence front, and I think it was somebody mentioned this in the chat earlier. I think Barbara suggested as a topic for a future session about augmented collective intelligence. But yeah, maybe this was what she had in mind.
Wonderful. I want to add my usages or my ideas. I'm thinking seriously that I have over more than 30 employees, and I think that I can really add a knowledge retention agent, and I can add a lessons learned agent, because during the years we have a lot of approaches, a lot of methodologies, a lot of best practices. In some of these topics, we've even wrote them down in order to communicate and better share knowledge with our business partners globally. So if we have a great body of knowledge on how to do knowledge retention, why don't we use an agent that can not be instead of us, but help doing part of the job and enabling the experts to speak also with agents that will make it so much easier, faster, and again, using our best experiences, our best practices, our knowledge that we have obtained. I'm not sure that I'm going to, I'm sure that I'm not going to fire my employees tomorrow, but I see here a wonderful way of taking our tasks, not tasks of biases that no one handles anyway, or tasks that people hate doing and they do once in a while, taking our ongoing processes, our core processes, as I say. Ron spoke about web designing. We're speaking about learning lessons, debriefing. We're speaking about knowledge retention. We're speaking about everything we do. If we know to engineer it, if we know our best rules, if we know our business rules, our approaches, best practices, methodologies, we can use GPTs in order to do it better and in order to do parts of it more efficient, of course, not without us, but in some augmentation way. So these are ideas for knowledge management. I'm sure that for every discipline, for every expert, if it's someone who writes books or someone who is an engineer, there are so many of ideas. I want to open the discussion now, both to our roundtable partners, but also to our great KMers that are here. Please talk up and say what you think. What will you do with it next? What's your tomorrow morning?
Hi, Moria. Before asking what I will do tomorrow, I would like first to ask a preliminary questions. Can we link ChatGPTs in a private company intranet, accessing all the document of these companies?
You're speaking about several different questions, because first of all, having a GPT on a private cloud is one thing. Now, having indexing all the information in the organization so it can access it is another thing. That's the second part. Mm-hmm. For example, Morgan Stanley are known for doing it, but it's expensive, and not yet all organizations have done it. Copilot enables part of it, but not fully, not yet. Maybe Dragon will add. And now adding the layer of GPTs is the third layer above these two. Dragan, do you want to make it to speak more accurately if I missed something?
Yes. So the question is if we can link all the documents from the company, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. So I was just writing that on the chat. So basically, OpenAI, if we are talking about GPTs and OpenAI, there is a limit of I think 20 files or so. So I view OpenAI more as a B2C product. It's not really used for the B2B environment and enterprise environment. But I think what you are asking, it's totally doable, but on another platform. Basically, we are looking to build a RAG system. This is what it's called. So you feed all the documents, and we do semantic search based on the documents. And if we use other systems, there are no limitations like the OpenAI has. So it's totally doable, yeah.
Right. In my experience, in one of the previously company where I worked, we introduced a search tool, a specific search tool to access all the information of the company. There were more of 4 million of documents, and it took weeks and weeks, maybe 2 months, something like it, to index all the documents. That's why that is what I was referring to, in order, of course, to analyze the content of these 4 million of documents, for instance, or more, and to really capture the necessary knowledge that interests people.
Yeah, Alexander, I will just add one more point that if we are going to index like 4 million documents in one GPT, that we will get a lot of hallucinations because of this, because there is so much data and it's not really focused on something specific. For example, I can just imagine asking a question, and the AI would have no idea, because that search term is found in 1 million places. So you will not get really good results with that. That's why we are speaking about very specific GPTs that do a very focused thing. And that GPT, I envision that is fed with only a couple of limited files. That's the best way to get really accurate results.
Okay.
Glennery, please.
Sure. Are you all hearing me?
Yes, we don't see you, but we hear you.
Oh, you want to see me? Okay, I'll fix that.
Of course.
Okay, are you seeing me now?
Yes.
Okay, wonderful. So folks, I think it was a great session. And what I'm thinking of is repurposing and renavigating organizations, enterprises with respect to performance optimization. And when I say performance optimization, I am into quality management with CQI and IRCA out of London. And I do lots of audits and design and develop management system for organizations. And I am seeing where we can look at ChatGPT and looking at where a company is currently and looking at where they need to be based on their resources and to optimize their performance by looking at their workflow and business flow processes using ChatGPT to put them in a place where they can re-navigate and repurpose so that they can optimize and be more competitive internationally in the business space. So I'm seeing it as an immediate use. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anyone else wants to add his or her ideas for tomorrow morning? What would you do if you could? Using these GPTs? Larissa, what would you do tomorrow that you didn't do yet?
If I could, automatic knowledge connector to people and content, so could give me trends and things I'm not seeing through the analysis of patterns. I don't know, something that could enhance my knowledge through thinking ahead. I don't know how that could be possible, but if it's to dream high, I think I would choose something like this.
And you want to embed your knowledge in finding patterns and getting deeper knowledge out of your existing knowledge already.
Not only mine, but the knowledge I'm
of
working
the organization.
on. Yeah.
Wonderful. David, what would be your next GPT if you could? Where are you directing, or where do you think that we should dream?
I'm going to steal your idea on biases.
We can do it together.
We can do it together.
There are some already, but I mean, that's the question of GPTs. You have to find the good ones because they're not all good. So I would use yours.
I also was thinking, I think it was something that Dragan said, that he was taking transcripts and creating marketing material from them. And so I've got a little note here that again, after this session, I'm going to ask ChatGPT to suggest a number of ways in which I could get value out of existing transcripts from conversations, or because the other thing you can do, you can, I mean, I've done this as well. You can go to, there are lots of really, really good podcasts on Zoom these days, not on Zoom, on YouTube and other places, but you know, some of them are 2 hours long, and you kind of think, well, yes, this looks kind of interesting. You know, do I want to spend 2 hours? Well, you know, it's worth spending 5 minutes to grab the transcript, put it into a Gen AI, and get it to do a summary, ask it a few questions, and say, yeah, this YouTube video is actually worth watching. The other thing that's just worth noting on this as well is that, you know, I use it a lot for writing, to either, you know, improve my English or enhance what I've written, or create something from scratch, but and then use it to criticize what's already been written. So I might get one Gen AI, I might get ChatGPT to write something for me, and then I'll give it to Claude and ask Claude to criticize it.
That's great.
And
yeah.
again, you just get some really, you don't necessarily have to use the text that's created, but you get some amazing insights from just using the different Gen AIs, because they've all got their own quirks and their own sort of focus. You know, they're better at some things and not so good at others. So, you know, using a mix of them makes a massive amount of sense.
Going back to general GPT from GPTs for specific tasks, Wonderful. Opie, what would you do tomorrow morning? And then we'll ask Willem to add his opinion.
Well, maybe Willem can go first because he had his hand up quite some time, I think.
Willem, where are you? We want to
Yes.
hear you.
Okay, here I am, Willem from the Netherlands. Hi. What I would do, and I already did that before, but I'm more confident to continue that path. I took the paid version of GPT-4 and I thought it, okay, this is what maybe a familiar person for you guys, Max Bosso, is theories about the I-space and social learning cycles. And then I asked, okay, the questionnaire, can you generate questions based on his theories? And then I asked, okay, now make yourself familiar with KYC activities within financial sector. And fill in as if you were an agent, an employee tasked with KYC activities, and get a strategy for learning. And that was what I found really amazing. I would do more to actually sort of, maybe it's sounds a bit crazy, but to find some authors and how does this author look at these questions. That has anybody tried that before, to train one of these models on a theory or a range of theories of some scholar, and then ask questions? As I cannot ask him now anymore, so I had to find another way to, okay, how to get more familiar with theories. And yeah, I thought it was amazing, the result. I can share these with you if you like. Really amazing.
Thank you. 1 minute, Opie, 1 minute, Ron, and we will end this session. Yes, please. Final words.
So just to say that in my field of learning and development, and having seen the example from Larissa as well, it's something that we are looking at also, is how to convert courses which have been traditionally given as classroom courses into blended courses. And an obvious way to accelerate that process would be to use GPTs.
Thank you. One final thought, so we can end this session with visionary thinking.
Right. Well, we haven't talked in this session yet about the GPT store, but the idea, of course, is that we can have at least intelligent, customized books where, as was previously asked by the previous speaker, we can ask the author, we could ask the questions ourselves about what we'd like to ask the author. That can all be done. As long as you've got a copy of GPT-4, and the GPT store will be an ecosystem in itself, I think, I agree. So that's the way forward, in my opinion. Intelligent, customized books, at least.
Wow. Okay. A lot to think about, a lot to process, a long way to go, but I think it's a marvelous way, taking knowledge management, not one step forward, but a huge leap forward. So thank you everyone for attending today. Good morning, good evening, good night, good day to you all, and see you all on the next roundtable 2 months from now on AI business ethics.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. It was so